Imagine being a shy, awkward teenager who has trouble making eye contact. Imagine building a website in your dorm room that becomes more popular than you ever dreamed. Imagine being sued by your best friends, humiliated in front of the world, and called a thief, a liar, and a robot. Now imagine that same man 15 years later standing in front of the United Nations and promising to connect every single human being on Earth. Imagine him giving away 99% of his wealth. Imagine him building a company that gives free internet to refugees in disaster zones. This is not a story about a saint. Mark Zuckerberg has made enormous mistakes. He has been careless with user data. He has allowed hate speech and disinformation to spread. He has apologized more times than any CEO in history. But this is also a story about a very specific kind of hope. The hope that human connection can overcome human division. The belief that if we can all see each other, really see each other, we might hurt each other less. Welcome to our channel. Today we are telling the story of Mark Elliott Zuckerberg. And by the end, you will understand that hope is not about being perfect. It is about staying in the arena even when the whole world is booing. Mark Zuckerberg was born on May 14, 1984 in White Plains, New York. His father, Edward, was a dentist. His mother, Karen, was a psychiatrist. He grew up in a comfortable, loving, intellectually intense home. Mark was not a normal child. He was obsessed with computers from the age of 10. His father hired a private tutor named David Newman to teach him programming. David later said, "It was hard to stay ahead of Mark. He absorbed everything instantly." By middle school, Mark had built his first networked program, ZuckNet. It connected the computers in his father's dental office to the computer in his house. His father could send messages to the receptionist without leaving his chair. This was 1995. The commercial internet was barely 2 years old. In high school, Mark built a music recommendation program called Synapse. It learned what songs you liked and suggested new ones. AOL and Microsoft both offered to buy it. They offered Mark a job before he had even graduated. He said no. He went to Harvard instead. He told his parents, "College is for learning things I can't learn from a screen. It is for meeting people." At Harvard, Mark was not a social butterfly. He was awkward. He had acne. He wore the same gray t-shirt and hoodie every day. He struggled to talk to girls. He once built a website called FaceMash that compared the photos of two female students and asked users to rate who is hotter. The site was shut down within hours. Mark was put on academic probation. But that failure taught him something. People are obsessed with each other. They want to see, know, and connect. In his dorm room in Kirkland House, Mark stayed up late writing code. He built a simple site called Facebook. It was just a directory of students with photos, names, and interests. You could click on someone and see their friends. That was it. No news feed. No like button. No ads. He launched it on February 4, 2004. Within 24 hours, 1,200 Harvard students had signed up. Within a month, half the school was on it. Within a year, it spread to Yale, Stanford, and Columbia. Then to every university in America. Then to the world. Mark dropped out of Harvard after his sophomore year. He never went back. He moved to Palo Alto, California with a few friends. They rented a small house. They wrote code until 4 a.m. They ate Chinese food and drank cheap soda. Mark later said, "We didn't start Facebook to build a company. We started it because we thought it was cool. The company was an accident." Facebook grew faster than any company in history. By 2007, Mark was the youngest self-made billionaire in the world. By 2010, Facebook had 500 million users. That is more people than the population of the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom combined. But success came with a terrible price. In 2004, Mark was sued by twins Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, along with their friend Divya Narendra. They claimed Mark had stolen their idea for a social network called Harvard Connection. The lawsuit dragged on for years. It was turned into a movie, The Social Network, which portrayed Mark as a cold, betraying liar. The movie won Oscars. Mark was devastated. He said later, "That movie hurt. They made me look like a robot who hurt his friends for money. That is not who I am." In 2006, Mark had to make a decision that nearly destroyed him. Yahoo offered to buy Facebook for $1 billion. Mark was 22 years old. His board pushed him to sell. His investors begged him. His friends said, "Take the money. Billionaires don't walk away from $1 billion. Mark said no. He believed Facebook could be bigger. His board was furious. Several people resigned. For months, Mark was called an arrogant fool. Facebook is now worth over $500 billion. Mark was right, but he still lost friends. The same tool that connected friends also connected hate groups. The same algorithm that showed you photos of your baby also showed you conspiracy theories. The same platform that helped free political prisoners also helped manipulate elections. Mark was not prepared for this. He built Facebook as an engineer, not a diplomat. He believed that more communication always meant more understanding. He was wrong. In 2016, Russian operatives used Facebook to spread disinformation during the US presidential election. In 2018, it was revealed that Cambridge Analytica, a political consulting firm, had harvested the private data of 87 million Facebook users without their permission. The world exploded. Mark was called to testify before the US Congress. He sat at a small table wearing his usual gray suit, looking uncomfortable. Senators yelled at him for hours. One asked him, "Mr. Zuckerberg, would you like to apologize to the American people?" Mark said, "Yes. I am sorry. We did not see the problem soon enough. We are making changes." Stock plummeted. Employees quit. The hashtag delete Facebook trended worldwide. Mark's personal approval rating dropped lower than almost any CEO in history. He locked himself in an office. He read every book on history, politics, and human rights he could find. He held all-night meetings. He fired thousands of people. He rebuilt Facebook's entire security and privacy infrastructure. He later said, "I was naive. I believed that if we just connected people, the good would outweigh the bad. I didn't build enough safety rails. That is my fault. I own it." Mark did not run away. He did not resign. He did not sell his stock. He stayed. And he changed. He announced that Facebook would pivot to privacy-focused messaging. He encrypted WhatsApp and Messenger. He stopped collecting certain types of data. He hired thousands of human content moderators. He built Oversight Board, a kind of Supreme Court for content decisions. He also changed his personal life. He and his wife, Priscilla Chan, a pediatrician he met at Harvard, gave away $25 billion to fight disease and improve education. They launched the Chan-Zuckerberg Initiative to cure, prevent, or manage all disease by the end of the century. Mark started a project to give free internet to rural Africa, Latin America, and Asia. He called it Connectivity for All. Critics said it was colonialism. Mark said, "The internet is not a luxury. It is a utility. It is the library of the 21st century." He also started building the metaverse, a virtual world where people can work, play, and socialize using VR headsets. He renamed his entire company to Meta. He moved away from the Facebook brand. He said, "The next chapter of the internet is not about scrolling. It is about being inside." The stock dropped. Investors panicked. Mark lost $70 billion of his personal wealth in a single year, the largest one-year loss in history. He kept going. In recent years, Mark has done something unexpected. He has become vulnerable. He started posting videos of himself doing ordinary person challenges. He learned to surf. He butchered the pronunciation while speaking Spanish. He did a cooking video where he burned bacon. He was mocked, but he kept doing it. He said, "For a long time I was afraid to show anything but confidence. I thought if I showed weakness, people would destroy me. But hiding my humanity was making me inhuman." He also started writing long-form letters to the public. No PR spin, no lawyers, just his own voice. He wrote about being a father. He wrote about his regrets. He wrote about his hope that the metaverse would be a place where people with disabilities can work equally, where teachers can take students inside a volcano, where a family in Mumbai can sit in the same virtual living room as a family in Toronto. He acknowledged Facebook's mistakes. He said, "We are a human institution. Humans make mistakes. The only unforgivable mistake is not learning from them." Mark Zuckerberg is not universally loved. He may never be. The wounds of Cambridge Analytica and election interference are deep. Some people will never trust him or his company again. And yet, he has given away more than $25 billion to charity. He has pledged to give away 99% of his wealth during his lifetime. He is trying to build a virtual world where a child in a wheelchair can run, where a student in a war zone can visit a museum, where distance does not mean isolation. He said, "The arc of technology is towards connection. Every phone, every network, every app, they all push the same direction. We are trying to close the final gap. The gap between the digital world and the physical world." To our audience in the USA, the UK, and Canada, you are watching this video in a world that loves to tear people down. One mistake and you are cancelled. One wrong tweet and you are a villain. One failure and you are a fraud. Mark Zuckerberg has been called a thief, a liar, a robot, a tyrant, and a fool. He has apologized more times than any CEO in history. He has lost more money than anyone in history. He has been humiliated in front of Congress, the press, and the entire world. And he is still here. He is still working. He is still trying. That is hope. Not the hope of never failing. The hope of failing and staying in the arena anyway. The hope of saying, "I was wrong. I will do better. Watch me." If you have made mistakes that feel unforgivable, if you have been cancelled, people have written you off, if you are afraid to show your real self because you might be mocked, remember the shy boy from Dobbs Ferry. Remember the dorm room coder. Remember the man who sat in front of angry senators and said, "We will fix this. We will learn." You are not the worst thing you have done. You are the next thing you will build. If Mark Zuckerberg's story reminded you that redemption is possible, even for the most criticized people, hit that like button for everyone who is still trying after failing. Subscribe for more stories of imperfect humans who refuse to stop. And in the comments below, what is one mistake you have made that taught you more than any success ever could? Thank you for watching. Stay connected. Fade to black. A soft ping notification sound. Hopeful digital music. The biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that is changing quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. Mark Zuckerberg,